It does not matter how many titles you have in front of your name. It does not matter how many nice initials there are after your name. What matters is what you're willing to do in any given situation. And he was a great example of that. So uh, people are out there who will do these things all the time.
Welcome to the Habit of Possibility podcast, the show about turning obstacles into opportunities. I'm your host, Robbie Spier Miller. Today, John Davidson is joining me. John is going to share with us the story of how he started a national movement to defeat Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which is a rare and fatal genetic disorder that affects 1 in every 5,000 boys. Pushing his son Jesse in a wheelchair almost 4,000 kilometers across Ontario, John was on a mission to raise awareness and critical funds to fight this disease. Over the past 30 years, the organization has granted more than $18.6 million to 63 research projects around the world, advancing efforts in prevention, improved treatments, and ultimately the pursuit of a cure. Hello, everybody. This is Robbie Spier Miller, your host for the Habit of Possibility podcast. And today, John Davidson is joining us. He comes from an organization called Defeat Duchenne, which he founded. And we're going to hear his story about how that came to be and use his experience as an example for how we can create possibilities even out of some really big challenges. So welcome, John.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming. So tell me about how this all started. I'm going to let you talk because I'm sure you can tell the story way better than me.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I think everyone in your audience will know that your program is about clearing hurdles and getting past barriers and things that are in your way in life and how you want to make a change and make a change for the better. Our story began when my son, Jesse, who is the middle child, we have 3 boys, and Jesse was diagnosed with Duchenne muscular dystrophy when he was 5 years old in about 1985. And that was quite a shock because you realize that this is a life-threatening disease. Duchenne affects boys almost exclusively, and people wonder why. It's because the missing gene is on the X chromosome, and because boys only have one X, there's no backup copy like a girl would have. And so people want to know, well, what does that mean? What it means is you have a weakening of muscles as time goes by, and children begin to fall somewhere around 7, 8, 9, depending on how they're doing. Wheelchair is required, oftentimes by their early teens. And muscles continue to weaken until eventually the respiratory system and the heart are compromised, and it doesn't end with a happy outcome. So when those kinds of things happen to you in life, you end up saying, okay, what are we going to do about this? And I can tell you in all honesty, first you cry, and that's a very acceptable thing. And then you go through a period of wondering what you're going to do. And we decided to get busy and to start funding research because there was virtually no research being done in Duchenne muscular dystrophy at that time. And I thought, well, one thing Canadians respond to is someone who challenges the geography of the country and challenges themselves at the same time. So I thought, well, I'm not a young man at that point. I was 49 when I pushed Jesse across Ontario in 1995 in what rapidly became known as Jesse's Journey. And I'm sure some of your listeners will be old enough that they'll remember that. And so we raised quite a bit of money for research, and we gave it all to research. And then I felt a little bit like Homer Simpson. It was kind of, oh, the cupboard's empty. Why didn't we build something that would fund research all the time? So in 1998, I started a little place called Kitty Vitty, Newfoundland, and just outside of St. John's. And I spent 286 days on the road, walking across Canada at 33 kilometers per day. I started on Jesse's birthday, actually, on the 10th of April, and I finished on my birthday, the 20th of January, the following year. And we've gone on to fund a lot of research in a lot of countries now. And we're just coming up on our ability to give out our $20 million to research. So the journey continues. But I think what people focused on the most was a father and son going across Ontario. And we spent 124 days on the road together, starting at the Manitoba-Ontario border, into Kenora, Dryden, Ignace, to Thunder Bay, around the top of the lakehead, Lake Superior, on to Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, south through the Muskokas, and then west along the shoreline of Lake Huron, Sarnia, Grand Bend, and around to Sarnia to Windsor. We turned at Windsor, and then it was pretty much a straight line from Windsor, Chatham, London, Kitchener, Toronto, Kingston, Brockville, north to Ottawa, where we finished at the Quebec-Ontario border, right behind the Parliament buildings on the Alexandra Bridge. So it was perhaps a strange thing to do, but Canadians are very good at separating the wheat from the chaff, and they knew why we were there, and they responded in a great way, and that was what got us started on Jesse's journey, which has grown to become Defeat Duchenne Canada. So that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but that's the story.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, it's such an inspiring story and very impressive what you accomplished because of it. I think it's interesting to stand back from this and look at the structure of what you did, because other people who are listening to this podcast may want to know how they can change something in their life or help other people in some way. And so what I'm seeing from what you described is that instead of caving to a problem, you allowed it to inspire you to do something, and you kind of got called to do this thing. And then you were willing to do something that was emotionally connected, because it was you and your son. You were telling a story, and you were also doing something impressive, right? Like, it's like people see you doing that and go like, wow, look at what they're doing. And so it captures people's imaginations. And when they see you accomplishing this impressive walk, that inspiration makes them want to support you, because you're creating that feeling in them. So that's what I'm getting from the structure of this. And I do think that it has that effect when we see somebody else do something that is inspiring and shows strength and perseverance. We want some of that too, so we're attracted to it.
Right. I think that's correct. And I'm not an athlete. I'm just what I would describe as a pretty ordinary dad. And I think at that time, most people, I like to think, would look in the mirror and just ask themselves, what wouldn't you do for your children? And then you just get out there and try your best. And, I'm a wee bit stubborn, so I wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I was a one-man band at that time, so I had to go and look after transportation, accommodation, communication, working with police, and they were just great to us. And everybody wanted to help because it was a project that made sense to them. You just realize that it's on your shoulders. And like many projects that start out small, you get a few friends and a few helpers who are willing to be of assistance and do whatever they can. And then things have grown, and it's a much bigger organization now. Not that big. We're still a small charity, but it's more structured now than it was back then. But it all got built because we just said, we are going to make a difference. And that's exactly what we tried to do.
Yeah. And you took that leadership role. And it's true, as a parent, any parent, even if they don't have children who have a disease or a disability, they can relate to that desire to do what they can for their children and the passion around it. So I'm sure that it kind of brought together this very broad group of people.
Yes. And they came from all walks of life. And I think it really is a project that lets you see the brighter part of life. My background was in the news media. And quite frankly, Robbie, when you are working in the news world, you begin to think that the entire world is made up of the people you're writing about. and it's not. You're writing about the rapists, the arsonists, the tax cheats, the child molesters, the wife beaters, and just go on and on, as long as you want that list. And eventually, after many, many years, you begin to think that's who everybody is. And then when you get on the road and somebody's standing at the side of the road applauding and saying, keep her going, guys, you realize that all those years you've been writing stories about the 2%. And now you're starting to meet the 98%, ordinary moms and dads who are there for their kids every single day. And we don't celebrate that nearly enough in Canada, or anywhere else for that matter. We get a little mired in looking at too much news, most of which is a repeat, and most of which is on the negative side. And I tell people that I'm old enough, I can remember walking over to the television, which had 12 numbers on it, and you had to go click, 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 click to make the channels change. There was no remote control and sitting on a sofa. And so now the average family could quite easily have 500 channels in their home. So when you go through that 500 channels, you end up looking at bombing, shooting, killing, bombing, shooting, killing, bombing, shooting, killing, sports event, bombing, shooting, killing, game show, sports event, more bombing, shooting, killing. Just domino that through 500 channels. And here's the difference. Whether you have 500 channels as we have today or 12 channels as we had when I was a kid, you still only have one receiver either way. So be a little careful what you let in there and how much of it you let in there, because it does start to affect you. So it's just a cautionary note from someone coming from a long background in media.
Yeah, well, for sure. I'm a hypnotist, so I'm all about teaching people how to communicate or choose the hypnotist they surround themselves with. And the media certainly is one of the hypnotists in our lives. So we're whatever we're surrounded by or what we focus on, we're going to get more of. So from the point of view of work, we definitely teach people how to be more skilled at that. So that's an
You have to remember, the media is a business.
Yeah.
Their business model depends on you continuing to watch or continuing to listen. And that's why they have all the teasers with the coming up next and we'll be right back sort of lines. And I get it when they do that. But it's, as I say, it's a business and they want to keep you watching. So then you ask the question, well, who's in control of your mind? Are they in charge of it, or are you in charge of it? And once you sever that cord and start backing away from a constant diet of media, which doesn't change an awful lot from day to day, then all of a sudden you say, hey, you know what? I just discovered stained glass, or I just discovered knitting, or hey, I do like bicycling. There's a million things out there you can be doing, and all of a sudden they're a really refreshing option, no matter what they are. I'm not saying hide your head in the sand. I usually suffice with one solid morning radio newscast to get me a national perspective, one local newscast. I'm talking the 5-minute on the half-hour sort of thing. And then I'm good till about 6 o'clock. And if I miss that, that's fine. And I do enjoy a newspaper. I find the printed word is more attractive to me than probably radio or television these days.
Yeah, well, from your example, we see that people do want inspiring stories because they were attracted to your story. And so you wonder if the media was willing to share more stories of inspiration, maybe people would actually pay attention. Maybe the basis with which they're making those choices is not as accurate as they think. I don't know. I do know people are very attracted to pain. So like when you drive by a car accident, everybody's rubbernecking it. So we kind of have of that in the media. But
it's funny, when I was in the media, we had one news director who, this was in London, and we came to London, and he wanted to know at our afternoon news meeting if we had a shooting. Have you got a shooting? And he was coming from Toronto, and we said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. We don't have a shooting. Well, we got a good fire. No, we don't have a good fire. Well, we got a car crash. No, we don't have a big car crash. this is London. It's a pretty quiet town a lot of the times. And he got a little excited and said, well, what the hell do you people do for news down here? He said, here's what I want. He said, I want to see flames shooting out of it, red lights flashing, and yellow tape around it. And I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting period of time. So that didn't last too long. Unfortunately, the hangover of it is that we're still following the car crashes just because it's convenient. I mean, when an accident happens, really, nobody cares except the two drivers involved. Now, if there's a fatality, that's a different story. Obviously, there's a family involved, and this is very sad. But news sometimes does, in this part of the world, get reduced to crimes and crashes far too often.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as humans, we don't always behave in a way that's in our best interest. So, it's good to become aware so you can learn how to behave in a way that really is more in your best interest and other people's.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder what would happen if, the really good story that was there that shows up about 20 minutes into the hour, if that had been the lead story, what would have happened?
Mm-hmm.
And, the old line about if it bleeds, it leads it's becoming pretty boring for people. They just know that's there. So why would I bother looking in? And maybe they'll get it someday when the numbers fall so bad that maybe we should start showing something that's more a reflection of daily life, not a reflection of criminals and crackers. So anyway, we're getting off on another tangent here, but
yeah. On that tangent, I've met a number of people recently who are very smart, educated, successful people who normally would really want to stay up on what's happening with politics or the economy or whatever, and they're at the point where they just can't, right? It's just too much.
Yeah.
So you wonder if people are burning out on this stuff and just ignoring it altogether, which isn't good either. It's overload.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where things go next in that department.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's lots. There are good news channels. Not that they're reflecting all good news, but there are channels that do news in general very well, and there's a lot of channels that do it very badly. Same thing is true with print and radio, and all print, radio, television are all guilty of the same thing, and they could also be champions of the same thing and develop a reputation as this is a great news outlet because you get such tremendous balance in what's going on and what really reflects life. So,
yeah. All right. And so another interesting thing about what you shared is that because you have a news background and you're used to writing a story, you actually created this experience that was a great story, and you knew how to do that because of your news background. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think if you are in sales, if you have a product, you want to tell people about it. And when you want people to help out in a project that you're involved in, you want as many people as possible to know about it and to know what it is you're doing. And so I tried my best to be in touch with as many people as possible. And they were quite, I think, happy to have something that was just a little different. And it's very Canadian. Canadians get the concept of traveling east and west, because you have to keep in mind, 90% of Canada lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border. So we're very used to this linear transit back and forth from east to west. And as I say, the people of Canada are very good at knowing who's doing something for a legitimate cause and who's doing it just for personal challenge, which is fine. People want to see, can I bicycle across Canada? Could I do this? Could I do that? Great, go for it and have a good time and feel good about your accomplishment. But I think people do recognize when someone's trying to make a statement and trying to do something for other people. And so I made sure that I was never paid on either adventure on the road. If you're not doing it for the right reason, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can you share with us some examples of as you were going through this whole experience? I'm sure there were times where it was challenging or things didn't work out the way you wanted to, or there was a huge obstacle in the way, whether it was with your son's health or with the raising of this money. So share with us a little bit about how you face those types of obstacles.
Well, you're very right. Be there for the right reason. And the right reason was to raise funds for research to make a difference in children's lives. But having said that, the number one concern for me was my own child's life. So when Jesse and I were together on the road going across Ontario, his health was paramount for me. And I paid close attention to that on a daily basis. When I went across Canada, I did not take Jesse with me because it was going to involve parts of 2 winters, and that would have been perceived as some kind of cruel punishment or something. And I would never do that. And then even at that, there are times when you have to make decisions on your own. And I recalled a day in Saskatchewan, day number 225, I'll never forget it. The wind was just howling across the Trans-Canada Highway when we stepped out onto the road in the morning. And the RCMP were there. So we got started. It was the one day that entire journey across Canada that not one person stopped to make a donation all day long. It was minus 25. And the truckers still swung out and gave us a big wide berth. But the night before, when I had called home, because we spoke just about every day, and my wife said, Jesse's not well. And I thought, oh. And she said, don't worry, honey, he'll be fine. But I could hear the concern in her voice. And that morning, I thought, maybe I should go home. And then I thought, what would Jesse say? And I could hear him saying this exactly. He said, Dad, if you quit, that's all you'll be remembered for. And then I thought, well, I know Jesse's not a quitter, and I don't think he wants his dad to be a quitter. So we just got going. We finished the day, and I got a call at the end of the day to say he was feeling better. And I slept pretty good that night. And 3 days later, we left Maple Creek, Saskatchewan, and by nightfall, we were in Medicine Hat, Alberta, and well on our way to completing that journey, which, as I say, it's 286 days. And at that time, I was 52 years old. So this was becoming quite a challenge. But you do have to make those decisions at times, and don't make them for you. Sometimes make them for the other people who are with you, and make sure you do right by them. Because whoever's on your team, you consider them first. And that's what I tried to do.
And he was looking to you as a role model because he needed a lot of courage and strength to go through what he went through.
Yeah. And he did a fantastic job when we were going across Ontario. Jesse was 15. But I think I left home with a 14-year-old and came back with a 16-year-old. I just watched him mature right in front of me, and he got very proficient and enjoyed speaking to groups of people at schools and seniors' homes and civic centers and city halls, and meeting people and shaking hands and having the confidence to tell people what you're all about and why you're here. And they really appreciated that. So yeah, people like to follow success. They want to be a part of something that's successful. And we have always said that all that we've been able to accomplish in funding research, and as I said, I think we've now funded 63 projects around the world. None of it happened particularly because of what Jesse and I did. It happened because people like you, Robbie, and all the people who are listening, and people across Ontario, people across Canada, and in other countries, made a contribution. We don't have a huge corporate sponsor. We're not a major disease. I keep telling people we are not the big three. We are not cancer. We are not heart and stroke. We are not diabetes. We are well down the list. We are Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And the difference is there are no survivors. So we're trying to make that difference and doing our best. And people responded to that. They just saw that's something they want to do. And I ask people all the time, what would you do if it was your son?
Mhm.
And then I'd like to think that I'd be there to make a donation and help you. And I appreciate what people have done because, in a way, I sometimes see our foundation and its endowment as money that belongs to the people of Canada. They contributed it. Our job is to see that it is well stewarded and protected so it can continue to generate more dollars every year to fund research. And that's how we've managed to grow. So um, you have to remember it's not always about what you did. It's maybe what you helped other people do or how you helped other people see the way that makes sense. Make sure your idea makes sense to start with. So,
Yeah, and
life-changing experience.
I bet. Yeah. And so one thing is that I'm sure a lot of people really feel good about giving to your organization because they see that the money is really going straight to the research. Sometimes with these fundraising organizations, a lot of the money goes to overhead. And I know that that's can be necessary. But from a personal point of view, they were connected to your story and they saw what was happening with the money they were giving. So, yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that a really good learning from all of this is that when you're facing a challenge, the best thing to do is get out in the real world and do something. And no matter what happens, you'll learn from it. Maybe it'll work, or maybe you'll need to learn from it and go do something else. But it's a growing experience, and it's a life experience. Like your son
It
said,
is. Yeah.
Jesse.
I love going out and speaking. I love having a live audience. And if people want to find my story, if you don't mind a little self-promotion here, they can find more video than a human should be allowed to look at johndavidson.ca. And my presentation is an hour long. There's going to be about 100 pieces of video coming at you, and still pictures, black and white pictures, color pictures. And it's a roller coaster. People laugh, they cry, and I take them from coast to coast in 1 hour. And I think people have enjoyed seeing that presentation, and they get to see stories and hear stories about people who are just like they are. And it's an amazing thing what people did. And I can give you, if we have time, I can give you a couple of quick stories about what things that happened, because people always want to know, well, what actually happened out there? Tell me something that I didn't see on television when you were on the road. We were in need of a driver for the motorhome for a couple of weeks in Newfoundland when we were going across Canada. And there was a fellow named Ed Coxworthy from a little place called Bell Island, Newfoundland. And his wife had been helping us source church basements and schools and fire holes and things where we could put our head down at night. And on the way to an event the night before I started, she said to her husband, they're still looking for a driver for a couple of weeks in Newfoundland. He said, don't be getting me involved in any fundraisers. I've done my part for the country. Thank you very much. He listened to what I had to say that night. And on the way home, he said to his wife, well, maybe I'll go for a week. And 10 months later, he went home. No charge. That's what people do when they see something they fall in love with and that they want to be part of, and they just know this is the right fit for me. And that same guy, when we were in the Rocky Mountains, it was minus 28. We're at Glacier National Park, highest point in the Rockies. And picture this, 7:00 in the morning, the motorhome's being warmed up. We're all struggling to get into our road gear and so on. And coffee's on the stove, and Ed's got the Newfoundland porridge going and so on. And windows are all steamed up. The two minivans are being warmed up. And all of a sudden, there was a horrendous bang. And Ed shot out the door of the motorhome, right over to the minivan that was making the noise, lifted the hood. There's the fan belt flopping around in the engine compartment. And I thought, we're in trouble. And Ed went over and shut off the van that was running just fine, took the fan belt off that. You have to just envision this. He took a knife and slit that fan belt all the way around the outside to make two fan belts. And he said, I don't know if it'll hold or not, but it might. Well, it did for the whole day. And I thought to myself, not bad. not bad at Coxworthy from Bell Island, Newfoundland, with a, get this, grade 4 education. You know what that said to me? It does not matter how many titles you have in front of your name. Does not matter how many nice initials there are after your name. What matters is what you're willing to do in any given situation. And he was a great example of that. So people are out there who will do these things all the time.
Yeah, awesome. And that connection with other people and sense of purpose and doing something in real life is, I think, a very magical thing for people. People are looking.
Yeah. So here I am coming up on June 10th, and I'm dangerously close to 80. And so I'm going to do 30 kilometers. And if people in this area and the southwestern Ontario area are familiar with the road, I'm going to start where Jumbo the elephant is at the top of the hill going into St. Thomas. And from there to Victoria Park in downtown London is exactly 30 kilometers. So I'll do my best. I hope I don't let anybody down on that day. And we'll continue to fund research. And I'm doing that to mark the 30th anniversary of our Crossing Ontario together, because I just think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, amazing. So if people want to join you on that walk, can they find out information on your website, or how can they register?
They can, if they just, for this one, if they just go to jessesjourney.com, the website will come up right away, and there's no I in Jesse, so it's JESSES journey.com.
Great. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, John. This whole story is very inspirational, and I love your spirit.
Thank you. And I'll look forward to meeting you in person someday, Robbie. And it'll be great.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Well, thanks again.
My pleasure.
On Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, let's cheer on John as he laces up his shoes once more to honor Jesse and mark the 30th anniversary of their historic journey. John will walk 30 kilometers, a powerful tribute to the distance he walked each day with Jesse. To join the walk and donate to Defeat Duchenne, go to jessesjourney.ca. And if you're interested in connecting with me and learning about personal and business coaching, consulting, and training opportunities, go to mindlinkconsulting.com or hypnosistrainingcanada.com and schedule your free consultation. Let us know what you think of the show. Reach out to us at mindlinkconsulting.com. And if you like this show, please rate and review us so other people can find us too. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Robbie Spier Miller, the host of the Habit of Possibility podcast. Tune in next time to learn more about how you can turn obstacles into opportunities and make the most of your life and career.